Welcome back to a long overdue episode on the Titty Deep Outdoors podcast. I am Sarah and I have my co host Lindsay with me, and today we are covering all things Babes on the Bay. That was our most recent tournament that we fished, and if you are keeping up with us on social media, we actually placed first place in our division, which was guided artificial only. Lindsay, if you're watching this video of us, she has our quote unquote trophy behind her. It was a really, really beautiful painting. And we'll get into all that, and I'll let her um, tell you about the painting and who the painting is by and all that good stuff. But we just want to kind of check in and go over all the things because gosh, we have been so busy since we fished that tournament that we are just now getting to talk and chat about it and release a new episode. So we have missed doing this, have we not? We've been like so anxious to get back on these episodes, and goodness, like between your schedule and mine,
hmm
it's just been like, woo.
Yeah, because I got a little side railed because my axis hunt slash like tsunami hunt um fell right before Babes, which was kind of not supposed to happen, but happened. And so it was like Babes was, 2 weekends ago. The weekend before that, it was the axis hunt. It's been a lot. So yeah, I feel kind of guilty that we haven't been able to get back on here since all of the things, but it's like we've been out actually doing shit to talk about. So at the same time, I'm kind of like pumped about what we've been doing and who we've met since shit just in the last couple of weeks. And then also like what we're working on for the summer and already the fall. So, yay.
I think that was one of the most exciting things about the whole weekend was like all the people that we met and the faces that we got to put to names that we've like met through social media, and then like people coming up to us at the event and they're like, "Oh my gosh, y'all are like titty deep." And I was like, "Wow, this is so cool." Like I loved it. It was just like I don't know. I told I was talking to somebody. I feel like I was talking to Megan maybe or Elizabeth, one of our teammates, and I told them, I was like, when we started this, I didn't really realize like what it was going to mean to other people. That we were like interviewing them and having them on the show and letting them like tell us their stories and tell everybody their stories and how much that meant to them. And then like when I got to meet James, for
Mhm.
example, in person, and I felt like he was like so humble and shy kind of to like even, meet like, well, I know he knows you, but like meet me and like talk to me in person. I don't know, I was like really like humbled and like taken back because I didn't really realize what it meant to other people to be on our show and be able to like tell their stories and stuff. So it's just like a really good reminder as to like why we're doing this, to really reach people and to really reach like other females and just kind of put all this stuff out there and talk about it. So um yeah, I think the whole weekend, just in general, just meeting people and being a part of the female fishing community was freaking awesome.
Yeah, and I will say because we got to also see Brittany, and we got to visit with her, and she went to eat with us, and it was really good to see her and catch up, and then I got to meet, and we both ended up meeting her, Presley with Waterloo, who have been big supporters for us and brought us some fantastic goods. But it's nice to put names and faces together. But when you see people in that environment and you're just there for one main reason and you're all working towards the same goal and you all just love doing this, in general, it's a big family versus just a bunch of random women trying to win something. It's so much fun. So much fun.
So much fun. It was so
I'll tell
fun.
you one of my favorite things about that, and I don't think I've shared this with you, and we'll go into like our who our team was, and kind of how this all kind of got flipped around the last couple of weeks, because we didn't run the team that we were going to initially run with. And then it ended up, a first place win. So, but one of my favorite things was like, it's always just getting all of us together, because like you got to meet Brian this time, the group got to meet Brian because he hasn't usually gotten to come to these things because of work. But it was extra special for me because I got to like have y'all at the house. So, this is the first year that I could do that. And it was just like way cool for me just to have everybody in my little house. And and like let's just go stay at the house and be chill and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, which by the way, if you're listening and you need a house to rent in Rockport, Lindsay's
I
got
do.
Lindsay's got you covered. So I did not get to pre-fish with y'all. So I actually got to sit in your
Oh yeah.
house and like be by myself for a little bit. So I was like over here promoting your house on Instagram, just like recording the beautiful living room, and like I connected to the Wi-Fi like instantly, and then I saw you had a little speaker in the basket on the countertop. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm about to put my music on. I'm about to crack open like a White Claw while I get my work done and just wait for y'all. And then there's like this really nice view of the pool, like right from the patio. So it was really tempting. But then you said y'all were headed in. So I was just like, I'll just finish my work and wait for y'all to get here. So, but your house is super nice and I loved it. And I was so happy that we all got to stay there together. So I'm looking forward to that again next
Yeah,
year.
for sure. It'll be the babes crash pad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I got to sleep with Elizabeth. Um, so this is interesting. I guess, can I tell like how our team like came to be
Yeah, go
this
into it. Let
time
me
this
wait,
week?
let me tell about the Megan part, because that's like one of my
Okay.
favorite parts of this. Do you want to go first? You want me to go?
Okay. So Blaine, my husband, was supposed to take us, right? Which we had already planned for. And so part of the reason why we've been so freaking busy, and this was no surprise because this happened to us last year, but I feel like everything was like shifted a week off. So like last year, my little one, Wesson, he made All-Stars in baseball, but everything didn't start happening until the week after Babes on the Bay for All Stars. And so this year it like all came early and they wanted him to do a tournament the same weekend as Babes on the Bay, which we found out literally like a week and a half before the tournament. And so I was like, well, shit. I was like, I mean, he has to go to the tournament. So Blaine was like, well, he's like, I want to take him because had we left that duty up to like the grandparents, we get like, it's like helicopter-ish parents, but also like Weston just doesn't act the same when he's like not with us. And so Blaine was like, I gotta stay here. Like someone else is gonna have to take y'all. And he's like, let's just talk to Tim. So Elizabeth was our teammate, which Tim is her husband, and he is an actual guide out of Matagorda. And he's taken us before we usually fish lingerie on the bay with him. And so, we in my mind I try to keep things fair. So I was like, we'll invite Elizabeth this time for Babes on the Bay. Because she's been wanting to fish it for like ever, I feel
Yes.
like, right? And we had a spot open this year and our boat is not as big as Tim's, and so our initial my cat is trying to come in here. I don't know how he unlocks the door. Anyway, our initial team, I think we were going to try to stick to
Yeah.
3, right?
Yeah, because Blaine had said, I really don't want to do more than 3, because what did he say? More than 3 is just drama. And he's not wrong in his past experience with this. But also because even though we do wade fish, there are times where we might just need to run it, and drift and things like that. And with your boat being a little smaller, I think he felt more comfortable just having 3 on the team, which
Yeah,
we were fine with. But then,
yeah, with a team of 3. Yeah, but then um I'll let you tell about Megan, but long story short, I don't even remember what I was saying. Long story short is Blaine had to stay home with Weston to take him to his baseball tournament. So Tim, this is hilarious. Megan's already in the picture at this point, but I'll let you tell about how she joined the team. Um, Tim and Elizabeth were actually in what,
They were on
Mexico
a
or something? They
cruise.
were on a cruise. When all this went down, we were like, oh my gosh, like the deadline to make any changes is like today. We need to take care of this like now. And so we're like texting like Tim and Elizabeth, like, can you please take us? Because Blaine can't. Like Weston made All Stars. He's got a tournament. Blaine has to stay home. And Elizabeth's like, yeah, I'll ask Tim, blah, blah, blah. Some, I don't remember. And the next thing you know, we're getting like this message from Tim. Elizabeth said that he was like, he had too much to drink on the cruise or something. And she said he was not like making any sense, couldn't even like text back. I was like, oh my God. Next thing you know, we're getting this text and it's like, this is your captain speaking. I wish I could pull up the text, like exactly what it said, because it was so hilarious. He was like, I'll be double checking your
The
knots
reels.
and
Nobody
how
better
you
have
tie
any
everything
squeaky
in with
reels.
squeaky reels, loose bearings, like whatever. It was so funny. So we were like, yes, like Tim's on board. So then it just kind of all worked out. But we extended our team to have 4 members, which included our friend Megan, which you've fished with her before, but I had never met her in
Yeah.
person.
So we
And so,
posted, once we had decided we were going to run with 3, we had posted because we do like to support our friends over at Babes on the Bay, with membership efforts. And Jen is just like a little social media hustler. And so anytime she would, post something about membership or promoting the tournament, of course, you would see us frequently share it on our social media. And then she also posted something about if you're looking for a team, she had created a group page and a captain's page, things like that, for kind of like just people out there individually that want to possibly do this but don't know who to, fish with. So I had shared it and even said, if you are, or I think we said on our page, if you are looking for a team, reach out to one of us. We could possibly help you connect the dots. We might know somebody. And Megan just happened to message me and she was like, hey, girl, she's like, I would really like to find a team this year, since I had the baby, because she had Walker. I think he'll be 2 and is he 2 in November. I don't want to lie there, but he's still a toddler, baby, pretty much. And she said, I haven't really done anything like this. They typically go hunting. And she's like, I really want to get back to it. And so I was like, oh. And literally I text Sarah, like, before I even responded to Megan. I text Sarah and I was like, okay, I know we said we were gonna only run 3. And this is when Blaine was still gonna be our captain and we were still gonna be on your boat. And we'd also entered into the non-guided all bait category. That's important to know. And so
yeah,
Megan, Sarah was like, I mean, is she cool? And then,
I know. I'm not gonna lie. I was really skeptical, but I trusted you because, like, I'm just, well, we have learned to be very cautious with
yeah.
like new friends and other ladies because not everybody is in this for the same reasons that we are, which we have learned.
Yeah.
And so I was very skeptical at first when you were like, well, there's this Megan chick. And I was like,
Hold
hold
up.
on, who the fuck is Megan? Well, like I knew who she was because like we had each other's friends on like social media, but I never really talked to her. I didn't like know her. And so you made her sound like the sweetest little angel on earth. So I was like, okay, let me check with Captain, make sure he's cool with like 4 of us on the boat. And like he didn't really care. So I was like, whatever. But yeah, and then Megan came to be, which like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until we share like just celebrate Megan because Megan, I feel like her whole like vibe that day, everything she said and like everything she felt and just like being there with us and doing that, it was like it really took me back and got me like kind of choked up because her saying like the things that she was saying, like, oh my gosh, like this really got me out of like my postpartum funk and stuff like that. I was like, girl, if only I could have um like admitted those things. And I know like your kids are older, so you haven't felt this way in a while, but I'm sure you know like what it feels like. Like Weston's 8. And so I want to say like we picked up or I picked up really like fishing again seriously, I guess maybe like what, five,
Yeah.
6 years ago. because like, yeah, like after you have a kid, it's like you almost feel like your life is over. It's like you can't do anything anymore. Like the guys can still go out and do all that stuff, and like you just can't unless you plan trips like this, go with ladies together. And so I was just like, I felt everything to the core, like that she said, because this fishing stuff for me is like, it's like my
Mhm.
safe space. It's like where I found who I really am, like all over again after raising like small kids. So I was like everything she said and just like how she felt about the whole day. I was like, oh my gosh, Megan. I was like, I feel you, girl. I feel you. Like you are like,
Yeah. And
so
I remember one of the first things that um that struck me with Megan when I met her for the first time was she's so genuine. Like she's just there's no ulterior motives. There's no ugliness. There's no doom and gloom. There's no negativity spoken from her mouth. It is just confident, um, genuine love for the outdoors. And it was so,
yeah,
I'm so happy that she had such the experience that she had those 2 days because I mean, fuck, she deserves it. We all do. And so I really, if
yeah,
nothing else, I feel like that you could take the trophy away, you could take the first place thing away, you could take all that away, and I still think Megan would walk away feeling like the biggest win ever because she kind of like what are they? She kind of got her groove back. And
yeah,
I can't wait to see where she goes with it.
yeah. And like word to the wise, those are or from the wise, I guess. Those are the kind
Mhm.
of teammates that you want to find in doing these like ladies tournaments because if you're like, if you're just super like egotistical and not appreciative, I guess, is not going to be like a good synergy amongst the group. So I think we did a really great job as like a new group supporting each other because we fished with Elizabeth before, but like Megan was a new addition, and so I think we made like the perfect team once it all
Yeah,
came
the
together.
energy, and and I think Tim will even agree that like the energy amongst us that day that was a big part of how we did what we did because I don't think any of us had any quit in us. Like I would have, you and I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but you and I running across from one side of that shoreline when we start hearing our teammates screaming, it's like, I've never walked so fast in water in my life. I didn't, at that point, didn't even care about stingrays. So, yeah, it was a good energy. And the other thing that I'm really happy about too is like, even though I get, I get homesick, so to speak, like homesick, meaning like homesick from y'all. Um, I'm so glad that like y'all connected finally because, there's not a lot of us running around there in the world that we know, um, that we like doing these things with, which is again why we're doing this because we want to meet more. But she's right there in your backyard. And then y'all ended up knowing a ton of like
I
all the same
know.
people. So I'm glad that y'all
I
connected so
know.
that like even though I don't get to come play as often, like y'all can still have that time together.
Yes. Yeah. You like, or the middle piece of us meeting. So I'm like so excited now that but you do have to
Well,
come for like a beach
well, I
day
wouldn't
or
want to share you
something.
with anybody else if that makes you feel better.
Same friend, same. So, let's rewind for a second. I know I said I
Yeah.
didn't get to pre-fish with y'all because of lame work. I had work, lame. So I literally had to take my laptop with me and sit in your house and work. But what was pre-fishing day like for y'all? What time did y'all even leave in the morning? I feel like I was sleeping peacefully in my bed and y'all were
Well, if you
already in the
asked
water.
him, we were late. Um, but okay, I will say he is so funny. Like usually I'm kind of like, oh, we got to get this and we got to pick it. That man, he had our cooler on the boat. I'm like, where's this? He's already got it. I'm like, okay. He's sitting in the truck waiting on us. And so I'm pretty sure we rolled out of the boat ramp around 6:30. He didn't want to go like super early when it was still dark, just because, again, we inherited Tim because of Blaine's, responsibilities, which obviously are the first priority in your family is your children. But Tim stepped up to the plate, and so he never had really. I don't think he's ever guided a team. I think he fishes Rockport occasionally for a tournament, but not much. So he kind of had a general idea of where he wanted to go, but not anything concrete. So we rolled out of there, and we're not even like 15 minutes from the boat ramp, and his water pump starts fucking up. We're like, this is not good. So we get past that. That was kind of a little, and he's like, I just had it worked on. But anyway, so we get to the first spot, and kind of the day goes about this way at every place we stop. We see fish, we see bait, we see birds, we see pretty much everything you want to see. Wish we'd had a little bit more wind, but not a lot of bites.
So what were y'all throwing on
So a little bit of
Friday?
everything.
Same
So
thing?
I kind of went with my confidence baits. We talk to that quite a bit now, and I think you and I both feel like we connect with that a lot. But I was throwing the Little Johns. I would flip back and forth between watermelon glitter, the red glitter. I even threw. He had asked me to go to Tackle Town because I came in Thursday, so I went in and went over there. Me and Heather did, and picked up some stuff. And some of the reports that he'd been getting had basically said that a lot of them were biting on this like brown colored, almost like a root beer color, with a pearl belly, but something with action because the weather was showing we weren't going to have a lot of wind. So he said, I don't want to go in there and scare them, but I want to have a little bit of an action. So he didn't want to go with big top waters, even though, he loves his top water. He did throw it some, but he didn't really get any hits on it. Megan and Elizabeth were throwing the infamous hunchback. And, Megan ended up pulling in a 26-inch red that day. That's the biggest fish any of us caught. I mean, hell, all I caught was gaff top and a small trout. So we would see the schools come in, but they were real small schools. And they were literally just kind of like coming in and hanging out. Not a lot of action. So that's pretty much how the day went. We rode a lot. We cast a lot. We kind of knocked the dust off, so to speak. But we didn't really have a solid plan. And so what I will say is at the end of the day, I remember thinking, okay, well, if it holds true, then when you don't have a great day of pre-fishing, the day of tournament should be pretty badass. So I'm 3 for 3 on that theory. Um, 3 for 3.
Three for
So
three.
yeah. So Laundry on the Bay, Babes on the Bay last year, and then Babes on the Bay this year. So we'll see.
When pre-fishing sucks, actual fishing day is great. And when pre-fishing is great, actual fishing day sucks.
So pray for a shitty pre-fishing day, or just don't go so you won't know. But I mean, it's all in your head. I mean,
Or
it
just
really
don't
is.
go.
But it's just kind of coincidence. So the takeaway from all this is both days really based on weather and if you look at like numbers and pressure and wind and all that stuff, both days, both Friday and Saturday, really were kind of similar. So why they were biting the next day, I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
So with all that said, maybe we should talk about real quick before we kind of go into the actual tournament day, is just for people who don't know, this is a redfish only tournament. So it is CCA sponsored. It is for conservation efforts. You're not messing with trout, and it's catch pick release only. So you have to pull in your stringer. It has to be obviously a legal redfish, 20-inch. Max is 28, which is what when you hear people, if you don't know, when you hear people say a slot, that's what your slot is. So you want the closest to 28 as possible because you're looking for inches on this stringer. There's no weight involved. So I like to preface that it's 4 fish. And then there were more pots, but you want the longest 4 redfish you can find in the Rockport Bay area. So
Yep. Yeah. Um, yeah, which I think is great. I could do without the app.
oh, let's not talk about that.
And we'll get to that. So, coming in first place did not come easy. And I don't know if I've ever seen you so fucking flustered in my life. I thought you were gonna like
I
kill
do not like.
somebody through the phone. Um, but but I have to give you props though for like staying on top of it because I know the rest of us were kind of just like, okay, like Lindsay's gonna handle it. We're gonna go fish because you were very adamant about getting it handled, doing it yourself, doing it on your phone. And so, once we figured out that it was like
One little button.
your thing and what you wanted to, what you were focused on, which I can't thank you enough because had you not stayed on top of that, we wouldn't have, you know, placed or been able to fuck with it because I don't have the patience for that shit. You can ask Blaine, like, when it comes to like technical stuff, like my phone's a mess. I don't know where any of my apps are. Like, I don't do that shit. So I'm glad that you volunteered for the second year in a row to do all the pictures and put them on the app and all that because, first of all, I never have any goddamn service in that bay. And I know you were struggling with service too. So that's the whole thing is like they even tell you at the captain's meeting that you can submit your fish kind of like anywhere at any time in
Mm-hmm.
case you like don't have service
Yeah.
on your phone, right? So you're supposed to take a picture of the fish and you have to have your token in the photo, which this year was a plastic rubber bracelet. So you have to show the bracelet like on the photo. And there was all these like stipulations, like the fish's tail has to be within the black lines on the yellow like catch it stick. Um, and so that was another thing that was very like, gotta show the bracelet, gotta be within this. Um, nose has to be touching the board, like
Relaxed
front of the board,
fish.
like clearly. Um, relaxed fish. So there was just a lot of things, and then you have to go through this process. And I can't really speak to it. I think you can better because I didn't even open my fucking app that day. Y'all were all like, "Oh my gosh, like there's someone's trailing behind us, like we're in first place." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "How can y'all even see this?" Like every time I opened my app, like shit was just spinning. I was like, "I don't have any fucking service out here."
Well,
Like
the
fuck.
key that there is a key
So I
thing
was
that
just
we should
like,
probably also say about the whole stringer thing is when they submit this fish, which is through the Fishing Chaos app, it's time stamped. So with it being time stamped, and I know
yeah,
this because last year we bumped down 2 spots. I think we were 14th. We would have been 12th because it does, excuse me, it does happen where people get the same stringer amount. So every second counts. So when we were getting, so the sooner that you get your fish in, whether you don't have service or not, if you have a 28-inch red, in my opinion, if you're not just covered in them, you should have gone somewhere to probably get it in because that's kind of like a diamond in the rough that day. So when I realized that we had a real good shot, like when we started getting into like number two, number one, and then we'd bump down to number two, I would leave where I was when we were casting. If one of y'all caught a fish, I would basically intersect Tim, go back to the boat with Tim, and take the picture, get it done, get it in, because every second count. It counted that day, and so I have to say because I think you heard Brian say it. His one of his funny phrases that I always love is, it's just an inch. It's not a dick. It doesn't matter, right? But when it comes to fish and dicks, apparently it does. So we're just going to leave that there. So every inch and every second counts whenever it comes to this fishing chaos app. So carry on with the story because I had to explain all that because that was actually gave me so much anxiety because y'all were like Elizabeth would catch like a 24-inch red and then like here comes here comes Megan with a 26. I'm like, we gotta get the fish to the boat.
Yeah, so I guess I'll rewind then and go back from like how the morning started, right? Like on actual, so we went over pre-fish day, which you guys had a pretty rough day. Pretty much only Megan got a 26
Mm-hmm.
inch on the hunchback, right? The hunchback lure. And we've promoted them so much, like on social media. I personally, just me, I've literally like only used that lure like 2 times. I have one, but I just like it's not my favorite because it's really light. Like I don't know, when y'all throw it, it's so light. I can't like with my bait caster, I feel like it just makes it a little bit more difficult. Like I know y'all three were throwing spinning reels, and so I mean I like it and I have thrown it and I've caught fish on it, but it's not my favorite to work because the action
Mm-hmm.
on it, like what you do, you just reel. You you throw it out and reel, right? So you don't have to like work it. And I'm like all about like working. It's just I get bored. And so that's why it's just not my favorite. But does it catch fish? Like yes, clearly, because on fishing day, all three of you guys used that one for the majority of the day. I know you switched what a
Mm-hmm.
couple times. You caught a redfish on a
On a spoon, and then I
gold
caught.
spoon.
I will say another color choice that was good Friday and Saturday was the Big Papa Pearl that you love so much, down south lure.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
um, I did have was it molting the Little John? Yeah. So those
Yep.
I was getting action on
Yep.
those, but the fish that we needed came from the good old hunchback. And I know what you're talking about there, like too, how light it is. I actually throwing that thing, even though I have to
Yeah.
land it a little differently because he gets kind of cockeyed with the spin rod whenever you throw it. But I
Yeah.
actually like
Because
using my
it's
spin rod.
literally Yeah, because it's literally like a bass lure, kind of like it's
Mhm.
nosedive. So that's if it doesn't land right, which has happened to me, it gets like the line gets twisted up on the hooks or the hooks get like lopsided and then but if you know it lands right when you reel it in and it like dives down, you can see it going like side,
Yeah, and you
side,
can
side.
feel that resistance.
Yeah, then that's when you know it's like working right. And so, I mean, I like it, but that's the main reason why I don't throw it as often because I'm not as confident in it because I don't use it enough to know like the last time I threw it was in this redfish tournament that we fished in Galveston and I used it and I caught a redfish on it, but um that kept happening to me and I wasn't used to using it. So every time like Clint would tell me, he's like, your lure was messed up. I was like, God. And I was like reeling it in. I was like, I didn't even know. So for me, my number one lure, and we've talked about it a million times. We just said for me is the Lil John color molting.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like this bone color, like iridescent shine on top. It looks like a little natural bait to me that looks just like money. Like when I look at that lure, I'm like, that's money. It's like looks like a little, shrimp. And so that's what I threw like literally all day, but I carried my top water. So we get out of the boat in the morning. It's dark. Like the sun was just barely coming up.
Pretty.
Just so pretty. And we get off on like this flat in ankle deep water. And, like none of us have really fished this area. I'm not used to fishing this area. So I asked him, I said, well, what are we looking for here? Like, where are we? And he's like, y'all are just going to fan out. This is a flat. Just like keep walking till, keep casting. And I'm like, So I kept walking, like, does it get any deeper? Like it was literally not even shin deep. And I look out, the sun had just started to come up, and I said, holy shit, there is a lot of fucking redfish
Mhm.
right in front of me. Like their tails were just flapping out of the water. And I was like, oh my God. So when I see something like that, immediately, like my heart starts racing and I can't like keep myself under control. So I'm going out. So I like start casting and I'm like, of course I would backlash because I'm like literally so excited. I hadn't adjusted my reel at all. I was just like, oh my God, there's redfish. Ah! I was freaking out. And so he told me throw a topwater at him. And so I was using the lure that Brittany gave us, the Moss custom
Oh,
lure, because there was a lot of grass there and it has those circle hooks on it. I'm not even joking. I went right over those motherfuckers, went right over that whole pile of redfish. And I looked at Tim and I was like, they don't want it. They don't want it. And he goes, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Keep throwing. So I did again. Nothing. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this isn't going to work. So I swapped my rods, like because they kept moving and I kept walking and it was dark and I was like, oh God. I was like, today is going to be the day. I say this every time. Like, today's going to be the day I'm going to get hit by a stingray because I was like, I was just like trucking through the water so fast, which was pretty interesting because they were so focused on what they were eating. They did not even hear me coming. Like I was not walking lightly. I was stomping through the water and they didn't move. They stayed there. And so I switched to my Lil John and they kind of had gone off a little farther than I could catch up to them. But I still saw some nervous water in front of me. And I was like, maybe they just kind of scattered out. Maybe they spread out. I'm like thinking to myself, my heart's still like racing. And I hadn't adjusted this reel either. I swapped out my rods. I carried a rod on my back. We used I used my Obsession Fishing wade sling box, the Gorda sling. And so I carried my top water on my back and I swapped it out, put my Little John on. Of course, I backlashed like 10 fucking times in a row because I'm still just like, too excited. Couldn't get my reel right. And I was like, and for a second, I'm not even going to lie, I sat there and I was like, good Lord. I was like, someone please help me just adjust this reel. And this is just like I'm just telling this story from like my point of view that morning because so much happened so quickly, like the minute we hopped out of the boat that I was like overwhelmed because I couldn't get my reel working right. And once I finally adjusted because the wind kept just like slightly coming, but then going
mhm.
away completely.
Flat.
And so every time I fixed my reel just right, like some weird wind would come through for like 15 minutes and then it would go like flat again. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get this. So finally, I got it cast into this nervous water. Next thing you know, I had a freaking head shaker just flying out of the water. And I was like, oh my God, it's a trout. And I was like really surprised that it was a pretty decent trout. It had to be, I didn't measure it, but just by the looks of it, its head was pretty damn big. It had to be about 23 inches, I would say, just by looking at it. And that thing swallowed that Little John
Mhm.
whole like that. It was all the way down its throat. So then I got distracted because I had to take so much time taking that out and not killing it and then letting it go. And I watched it swim away like so slow. And I was like, oh, I got so distracted. I was like, okay, back on track. We're here for redfish, not trout. So I'm looking around and I look over at you guys because all three of y'all were like to my right. And I didn't think I saw y'all catching anything. So I looked to my left and I was like, holy shit. I was like, there they are. I saw the tails again, but they were up like even more like towards the bank. And I was like, I said, okay, here we go. I was like, I didn't want to yell at y'all because I didn't know if there were more around me and I didn't want to scare anything off. So I took off like just trucking through grass. And I just kept telling myself, oh God, I was like, just don't let any stingrays get me this morning. I was like, please, it's too early. Like the sun hadn't even come all the way up yet. It was still not even like 7:15 at this time. And I could see them. So I was like, I was doing this with my arms. And I was like, oh, my legs, all in like this much of water. But it was like grassy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was only like shin deep. And so I chased him down and I hooked up on one, caught it, put it on my stringer, which was a whole nother ordeal because I forgot to tie. I never told any of y'all this. I forgot to tie my stringer to myself, so the fucking thing was like swimming away by itself in the grass. And I had to like run back to go get my stringer. And then I tied it to myself. And then when I caught that one, the group kind of like dispersed. And so I was literally just standing there, not casting. I just waited until I saw another tail because I was like, they're in here. I was like, they're all in here. And then I saw one tail and I said, there they are. I cast into him, hooked up to another one. I was like, oh shit. And that one was big. Okay, I don't know if I told y'all this either. That one was bigger. It was fighting, but it was a school of them. And so when I threw that lure, because there was another time I threw into the school, and just tell me if I'm rambling on too much, but I'm just like kind of retrace my memory from this day. I threw into that school and I foul hooked this tiny little hardhead, and I had it like, it was like rolling in. So I hooked into another redfish and it was pulling the fuck out of my drag. And I was like, oh man, this is a good one. And then it got off. It got off. And so I was like, it must have not been hooked right. I must have like foul hooked it, or maybe just got the corner of its lip or something, because I cast into that school and whatever they were eating, they probably just saw my lure and kind of took a swipe at it. It probably just wasn't hooked on good. So I was like, my heart was just like, oh. So I sat there, and all this time, y'all were like over here, and I was like telling Heather, I was like, tell them to come over here. They're fucking over here. I was going nuts. And then I see y'all getting on the boat, and Tim's just like coming slowly. And I was like, hurry up. So then I cast one more time, and I get another one. Because they were there. They were all there. And I was standing there by myself, still in shin deep water. And I got another one. And then I had to make sure I still had the other one on the stringer because I was like in panic mode at that. So I'm like, here I am, just caught one redfish, lost the stringer, caught another redfish, came off, foul hooked a hardhead, tumbled it in, and then had to get that thing off. Then I caught onto this other one, and I was like questioning whether or not it was big enough. And I like put it up to which Heather got a perfect picture of this. I posted it to Instagram. I put it up to my rod, and I was like, I don't know if this one's big enough. I was like, I don't think it is. I was like, oh, actually, yeah, it is. It's just right. And I did not even pay attention to the spots on it. All I was worried about was like length. I was like, oh, this one's not going to be big enough. We get back to the boat, and Tim's like, it's a keeper, but and then one of y'all, I don't know if it was Elizabeth or you, someone was like, hold on.
Look at the other side.
It's got spots. Yeah, look at the other side. It's got 4 spots. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even realize. I was like in such a frenzy from just, just so much going on. And anyway, so we hung on to that one just in case, the spots were going to work out for us. But I have never fished in my life like that, where I'm just standing in water that shallow, covered in redfish. It was like the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Just covered. The tails were just like flapping. And like when you cast into a school like that, you don't know if you're going to get the biggest one in there or the smallest one in there because there's so many. And so I just kept telling myself like, hey, just calm down, be still. And thankfully that morning like worked out for us, where as soon as the sun came up, and y'all made your way towards me, the bite died.
Mm-hmm.
Like completely right there in that spot for a good, I don't know, what were we hanging around there for like another 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
Well, while you were off doing that, I don't think we've actually, this is a good recap for us because I don't think we ever told you what we were doing. So like the reason why we never came over there is because we were doing the exact same thing. And that was wild to me. Like Tim was literally standing like 10 feet from me, and I must have tried 3 different baits. I could have, they say reach out and touch someone. I could have reached out and touched a redfish because they were literally just feeding frenzy everywhere, all around me. As soon as they would leave, more would come in and they would do the same thing, but they had zero interest in what we were doing. And Tim was bewildered. It was wild. And then at one point, he was like, "You're going to have to walk quieter." I said, we're in like you said, shin deep water, right? So we're wearing our Bart's Bay boots. It's a little difficult to not, he goes, "Stop sloshing." I looked at him like he was fucking crazy. I was like, I'm shuffling slowly, and I like, "Shh, shh, shh. You're being too loud." Because see, I know how to walk through the woods, and I know how to like follow feet, especially whenever we're walking in like a pattern like that, to purposely be quiet. You can't be quiet when you're walking through shin deep water and you're sloshing a wave because literally it's hitting right where your boot is. So it's just like almost gathering and like, whew. So he's like, "Shh, what?" So we did this little song and dance for like, it seemed like forever, but
It was a
it was
long
a long time.
time.
And we were
Yeah.
in that same spot. But you have to think about it this way. While it was like there was all this action, right? And you did get some fish off of that little area. For the amount of people and the amount of time that we spent there, it didn't really yield a big result. Like it got us on the board, which thank God, because I think that like we were able to put 2 fish up right then, like 7:30 in the morning. But like you said, then it just died. And then they were
Yeah.
gone. And when it did get quiet, like you said, when the wind would drop, that's when he was like, "Stop sloshing." He was like, "It's too quiet and they know we're here." I'm like, okay, well, that one just pretty much like got up close and personal with me. I don't think he's really phased by my boot, but whatever.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I mean, I must have been chasing like the fucking hungriest group of all of them because I mean, I was literally stomping, which I typically don't do. I was stomping to try to catch up to them, and I managed to like get in there somehow with the Lil John molting. I just wiggled it in
I
there.
threw right over a group of them because once I saw those first set of tails that were just above you, and Heather was kind of behind me, and I was behind you, and Tim was in between us. We were working our way to you, but then another group came in between me and you, and that's when we cut. Tim went and we threw over them and brought it back in. We did that several times. We did it with top waters. We did it with a Little John. We did it with a paddle tail. I mean, we did it with a lot, not a single bite. So that's when he was like, "Okay, we're going to game, like plan B here." So while you're over there catching your pretty trout, I'm walking back from the one part of the flat that I was on towards the boat. And I kind of like got startled because fish don't, like I said, fish don't just like run into you. And I felt like I've never had an encounter with a stingray, but I feel like that was probably one that I I don't want to get any closer to one because I didn't see them. I was still just shuffling because it's just kind of like habit now. But it felt like somebody had a kid's bat and literally just whipped me with it on my ankle. Like pop, like, "Bitch, back up." So I kind of stopped, and I was like, I stopped I felt so confident about what it was that I stopped to see if I was like, if it was fixing to go downhill. You know what I mean? Like if pain, whatever. Like, and then I was like, okay, I'm okay. I kind of looked down. I didn't see anything because it was crystal clear. I looked down, I didn't see anything. That was the longest 10-yard walk to the boat I think I've ever taken in my life. And I got back on the boat and Tim was like, oh, that's probably a stingray. 7:30 in the morning.
I mean, it probably was. They were
Yeah.
everywhere. Everywhere. I saw all kinds of stingrays that day. Thankfully, I guess I stomped hard enough all the way to that school redfish that I scared them away, but holy crap.
Well, and
They
we've
were,
been talking all about like the artificials that we used and everything else. And you notice if you're listening, guys, we have not said that we used any live bait. And the reason for that is because when we made the switch to Tim, and I think we actually talked about this in our podcast with Captain James Hinton, we said, oh, yeah, we're going to go in, we want to go in the largest division because it's more competitive. And yeah, there's that. We can still use artificials, blah, blah, blah. But when Tim agreed to be our captain, he had one requirement, and that one requirement was he wasn't throwing bait. So we were fine with that. So we switched. I wanted to say that because before the day goes on, you're not going to ever hear us talking about shrimp, live shrimp, cut bait, mullet,
yeah,
anything. It was all
yep.
artificial.
The lures, yeah, the lures of the day, because I know everybody has asked, were the Hunchback, Lil John, Molting Color, and a spoon,
Yeah.
right? I I didn't catch a damn thing on my topwater. I tried it multiple times throughout the day just to see like if I could get any blow ups, like when it like slowed down, and I didn't catch a damn thing on the topwater. So that became a pointless bait for me like throughout the entire day.
Well, and I think you and I would both agree that like after we left that one spot, it just, it kind of got quiet for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
Um well, but the important thing that we noted though was as soon as I got back on the boat and I realized the redfish don't
Mhm.
go far. And as soon as I realized how many I'd seen there, I told Tim, like, as soon as I hopped back on the boat, I was like, whenever it's the minor, like later today, we need to be like right back around here somewhere and look for them. I was like, they're gonna be hungry again. They're gonna be back. And we're probably surrounded by them right now. They're just not
Yeah.
eating right now because they just got done eating. They were hungry. They were hangry. They were all over the place. And so what? Then we moved not
I know.
far
And
from
we
where we
kind of
were
like
actually. We
hopped
moved to a little
around
spot.
not far from
Yeah.
either any of the
And he
spots we
says,
just previously came from.
right. We didn't move very far at all. Not even a couple miles down. Like not even. And so we hop off the boat, right? Just like trying to kill time, like see what this spot's about. And he says, and God blessed him. He freaking jokes so much. I thought he was joking. He goes, "Oh, there they are right there." And I immediately thought he was joking. I was like, "Where?" I was like, "You're kidding." And he goes, "No, right there in front of the boat." And he was like, "Elizabeth," and then
Yeah.
he started getting mad. So then I like he had tone his tone changed. So I was like,
He's not
"Okay,
joking.
fuck, he's not joking." He was like, "Elizabeth, gas right there." Like he got all pissed off. And so Elizabeth cast, boom, hooked up. Or was it Megan? And then, or
Mhm.
no, it was Megan. And I happened to be standing right next to her. And because I was walking past her and Elizabeth, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." And she goes, "Help me." She wanted me to like net it for her. And so I was like, I was like, "Hey, teamwork makes the dream work." So I stood right there. We got that thing in the net. I gave her my fish grips thing,
It was
and
great.
Elizabeth hooked up. They were just passing through, like,
Yeah.
and then you got
I
one
got one because
right
I
after
stayed
that,
back
right?
because I was
All
trying to like
three.
get the stupid app to work. And then I was like, it
Oh,
was
that's right.
driving me nuts because I was listening to y'all and watching this go down just 15, 20 yards from me. And I'm like, I looked at him, I was like, fuck, I'll be back. And then I caught
It was
I
just
got
like,
hooked up on one and it wasn't bigger than one we already had on the boat yet. So I was like, okay. So then he was like, all right, let's go find some more. And that's pretty much the extent of the day until the very end, if you think about it.
yeah. I feel like so. the minor was like what, later in the
Mhm.
day? I want to say like 2 o'clock or
Yeah, no,
something, right?
it was
And
1:30 to
so,
3:30 because you said it's going to be an all day deal,
yeah,
ladies.
yeah, it was like an afternoon. Like, so we hooked up so early. I feel like we caught what, 4 or 5 reds, right? Before
And they were
8:30
all like in
a.m.
the 21 to 23 and a half range, right? Yeah. We didn't have
Yeah,
anything over
yeah,
24 at that point. But we had three fish
yeah, not at that point.
always. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I want to say, I mean, I want to say Tim was just kind of like, well, let's just go, which I felt like wasn't like him because we went to like this deeper spot for a second where we
Yeah.
literally went titty deep. I was like, my elbows were up and I was like holding my rod up like in my face, just like casting. And um, we just kind of messed around for a bit and just kind of like regrouped, ate some lunch. And then, yeah, we made some like decisions, like where are we gonna go? And he was like, should we go here or should we go back to where we were this morning? And I told him, I was like, well, my vote is back to where we were this morning, like 100%, because that's what I initially, felt like just from experience so far, like those fish are not gonna go far. And they're there, they just weren't hungry anymore.
But that no,
And
that was the
so,
second spot though that morning. Yeah. But
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
second
I
thought.
felt like I felt like Tim really wanted to say, ladies, this is what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I think he was kind of like, I don't want that on me though. So I remember standing
He left
right
it up to
next to
us.
him with you, and he looked at us and he goes, what do you think we should do? And we both looked at him and said,
Yeah.
you do what you think we need to do. You make that call. And he's like, all right. And it's like, as soon as we told him that, he was like, he knew exactly where he was going because I mean, we weren't even like locked into our seats and buckled in, like, holding on to something where he was like, remember mud donuts.
Yep. Going back to where we were this morning.
And we weren't there 5 minutes before we started seeing action. And then we realized that we were also getting a storm.
Yeah, it rained on us for just a little bit. We saw it like coming all around us, and I didn't think we were going to get it, but then we got a little bit of it, a little bit of rain. You and I were together. We like hugged this, we kind of hugged this like this point of a mangrove looking area, I feel like is how I would describe it, where you and I went on one side to the right, and Megan and Elizabeth went on the other side. And by the way, we've mentioned Heather's name quite a bit in the show so far. So Heather was a paid photographer who we we've made friends with, obviously through you, Lindsay. She's taken plenty of photos of us in the past, and so she was given permission to come on our boat, and she was there all day snapping pictures of us. So I know, some people might listen to this and be like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
who's Heather? Y'all, because it's a four-lady team. So Heather was a photographer. She was on the boat and in the water all day with the camera. So anyway, we were happy to have her there. But yeah, she was there getting photos of all this. But anyway, so you and I went to one side, they went to the other side, and you and I both caught a
Mm-hmm.
couple of smaller redfish, keepers, but like not anything that we didn't already have. And the next thing you know, you
Well,
hear
well, you're
Elizabeth go
forgetting
like
a big
something like,
part. Because remember, as we got
what?
close to like that little drain or that little cut that goes kind of back into those little estuaries and stuff, you saw that school come in, and I had already caught one, and I didn't know how big he was. I was holding on to him until I could get back to the boat to see like if he was going to be even like a half inch bigger, but he ended up being like 22 inches, which we'd already culled those. But I remember you going, oh my God, Lindsay, oh my God, Lindsay, look, they're right there. They're coming in. They're right there. You need to cast right there. And I cast perfect when you told me the second time, because the first time it was kind of picking up that wind and I had that spoon on. So I didn't have a lot of weight with that spin cat. It was a hot mess. But the second cast, I got him. And remember, I hooked onto him and I got him so close to my net. And then,
Oh
and I
yeah,
will
I
say,
forgot
like
he
you
popped off.
said, that one early in the morning, like that guy, that, that,
Had some
that guy
pull.
had some fight in him, and it wasn't a rat red fight. It was like a thick boy fight. So that was kind of a heartbreak.
Yeah.
But I do want to say before we go over to where they were going, when I got off that boat, I've never used a spoon in my life. And but I have read up on how to use a spoon. And there's a time and place for it. And I've had it since we fished Legends the first year. Because if you remember, Nathan was like, y'all need spoons and you'll need swivels. So I didn't have any swivels that I had brought with me, but I had tucked a spoon in my bag the day of the tournament. Never even took it with me on pre-fishing. And I remember I grabbed it because Megan said, "Oh, well, I have swivels. I'll just take them just in case." So when we got to that last spot, I asked him because remember, it was super overcast at that point. The water was kind of darker. We were in really big grass area. I mean, sinking mud grass area and those mangroves. And he was like, "What are you going to throw?" I was like, "I got this spoon." And he was like, "I don't have any swivels." Megan goes, "I got swivels." So we tie up that spoon. And that was so fun. Like I've never used one before, but I feel like it was effective because of the overcast and the grass. And it wasn't a very like loud, intrusive bait. And I mean, I didn't have 5 casts in before I had him. So I'm going to try to get a little bit better with my spoons.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I actually like the
Yeah, that
spoon.
was fun.
I like it a
I
lot.
didn't like getting him off of the spoon the way it was hooked. Probably also because of me being like, gotta get him off, gotta get him off, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. I just wanted to get the fish off as soon as possible. So we'll see. But yeah. So then we hear our
Yeah.
teammates screaming, and then
Um, yeah,
it went wild.
yeah, we heard, I don't know, I couldn't understand like what was going on. We just thought we heard like screaming or something. And so we were like, hold on, what's going on over there? Let's go that way. So we had to like come around this corner
Well,
where we
we
could
could
actually
see
see
them. We
them
couldn't see
and
what they were doing. That's yeah, like
what they
I
were
could see
doing.
Megan, but I couldn't see where Megan's rod was.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then keep in mind now, this is like the end of the day pretty much at this point. So this is getting close to what lines were out of the
3:30.
water
This
at what
was like
time?
2:30.
3:30.
At the yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, we had to be back at the place at 4. But yeah, this was like close to the end of the day. And so we were like just living on hopes and dreams that we were gonna just land one a little bit bigger than what we had. So here comes Elizabeth with the redfish in her net because I think she dropped her fish grips or something or her pliers. So she dropped something earlier on in the day and she forgot to grab some more off the boat. So she had no way in like getting this fish off. So I see her walking. She goes, "It's like 24." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's an upgrade. We needed that." And then we're walking that way, and I look at Megan. She just like hooks up out of nowhere. Her line's going. I hear her freaking reel like dragging, and I was like, "Oh my God." And she just kept saying, "It's big, it's big." And I was like, "Well, how big?" And I'm over here like yelling. I'm like, "Go, Megan! Go, Megan! Like, get it, Megan!" I was like, "Keep that." I was like, "Keep it in the water, keep it in the water." It's like, "Don't overpower it." I'm like freaking out because the way she was fighting it, I could tell. I was like, this is it. I was like, "This is gonna be it." I was like, "She's not, this one's fighting. Like, this has to be a good one." And then I saw her pull her rod up because I was like right behind her. I saw her pull her rod up and she scoops it. But then she had walked deeper. So she was about belly deep at that point in this little gut that she was in and throwing the hunchback. And so the fish I never actually saw because it was in the net, like in the water. And what is the word I'm looking
Intersect.
for? We intercept each other. Yes, we intercept each other like as she's walking to the boat and I'm walking to try to go, cast. And I was like, "How big is it? Like, show it to me." She pulls it up out of the water and I said, "Oh my God." I was like, "Megan has the fucking winner." I was like, "This one's the winner." And she, bless her. Oh my God. She was like, "Is it good? She goes, she goes, "I haven't done this in so long. Like, I can't really tell. Like, I don't have a good gauge of like, how big is this?" I was like, "Girl, this is like fucking 26, 27." I was like, this is a good one. I was like, "Take it back to the fucking boat." And so she gets over there and I'm just like waiting. I'm like, "Tell me,
Well,
how big is it?" And Tim's like,
yeah.
"It's
Well,
26 and what was
I
it?
at that
Like
point you had
26 and
gone
a half
that
maybe?"
way, and once I saw Elizabeth trucking with her fish, I was like, my whole like fishing chaos app brain went crazy, and I was like, we've got to get this fish in. We got to get this fish in, because for those of y'all that are listening, again, inches matter, half inches matter at this point, seconds mattered. We were still in first, by the way. We had not looked at it, but what we
Yeah.
were doing was we wanted to get insurance because we know there's other teams out there that are fishing as hard as we are. They're fishing to the very last second. There was nobody left in the water with us, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the boats had left because the storm looked like it was actually going to like be pretty ugly. But every second counted. So Sarah kind of, once we got around the cut and we could see that they had fish, not just their heads and their rods, I started making my way back to the boat so that I could be there to get the fish on the catch board, get the pictures with Tim, all that stuff. And I remember Elizabeth, he brought it to the boat, and both him and I looked at each other and we were like, fuck, is it going to be too big with Megan's fish once she got it there? So I got Elizabeth's entered. Hers was like 24. But then once we got Megan's up there, we were like, oh shit, please don't be too big. I remember going, please don't be too big. Please don't be too big. And he gets it on there and we pinch that
It was
tail. And I was like,
perfect.
oh, and I was like, picture, we got to get a picture. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. So we're like, at this point, like scrambling to get the picture in. And then y'all just take off and go fish more. I mean, this is at like 3 o'clock. So we're ahead several inches at this point, I believe. Maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches. But man, there we go. Y'all, once I got
Yeah.
that picture in and we didn't have any more issues with the picture thing and the chaos, fishing chaos, I bail off the boat again because then y'all find another grouping like 50 yards in
Another
front of
school
us.
popped up right. Yes. And then this is a rookie move on my part. Dumbass me. We caught so many redfish. I never
Mm.
retied my leader line like all day long. All day. Because we saw this other school, again, still in ankle deep water that we walked up to. Ankle deep water. I hooked into it. I saw the damn thing. The water was so clear. I saw it coming at me. It looked like a pretty decent sized redfish. I want to say it was probably around 24 inches if I had to guess because I saw it. And it broke off my leader. But at that point, I mean, we were still sitting pretty, so I wasn't like too upset, but I was upset. I was like, damn, I was like, we could have had a better, I could have upgraded, could have had a little bit better of a stringer, but we fished till the very last minute
We barely
of
made
the
it back
day.
to the tent. And then we saw multiple tornadoes or whatever y'all want to call them. I mean, I've seen pictures now, the water spouts or whatnot. Remember, we saw one while we were actually fishing, and then on the way back to the tent, and then we thought we were gonna get stopped by the state trooper.
Oh my God, yeah. In that last stop too, there was a cork, which I mean, I thought I was gonna get lucky. There was a cork floating next to me, this orange cork, and as I got closer to it, it went underwater and took off. I was like, oh shit! I was like, Elizabeth, there's something on this cork. She was close to me, and I was like, I'm gonna see if I can catch it. And then I thought to myself, I was like, man, what if it's a stingray? And I was like, well, it could be a redfish. Who knows? Like, you never know. So I cast my line at it like a couple of times and I got it just right. And I was like, oh, damn. I was like, I got pretty good aim. I was like impressed with myself. So I was like reeling it in. I caught it. And I was like, oh man, I was like, it's something smaller. Like I could just feel it. And so it got closer to me. I was like, it is a stingray. Gosh darn. So then I had to like put it in my net and get my hook off of that line. And then I like picked up the bobber and just like tossed it with the stingray on it.
And then we watched
Poor
it continue
thing.
just to go.
But yeah, just go everywhere. But I thought I was gonna get lucky on that one and maybe land another redfish that someone else had like broke off. You never know. I mean, it's better to check than to just like let it
Yeah,
go.
I'm just, sitting here talking about this stuff. It's surreal to me still. And I know people that aren't in this um, bubble of fishing and outdoor stuff that we love so much. Like, it's funny because I tell people sometimes I'm like, I get so giddy and I tell them what we did. And they're like, oh, that's sweet, honey. And I'm like, you don't get it.
I know, they just don't get it.
Here's my trophy.
I know. I feel like I try to
Yeah.
explain the whole day to my mom, like give her this like play by play, just like what we're doing here. I try to like tell her about the whole day and she's like, "Oh, she's like that sounds fun." I
Okay.
mean, she loves to fish, but she doesn't get it because she doesn't do it like competitively, like these tournaments that we do. And I just I feel like if I were a listener, if I'm listening to this, I can picture it, like walk through like each step and I'd be like, oh man, that just sounds like a day, like I love these stories and like
Mhm.
listening through all this because like we've done it, like, and this is how many times, why
I
every
don't
time we
know.
fish tournaments, we get rained
I
on.
don't- It's like
We
every
get
time I
rained
do
on
something, anything
and
outdoors, I get
have to
rained
do
on.
it. Yeah, your freaking axis
Hail.
hunt, y'all got, oof, that
It
was
was hail.
ridiculous.
But and I will
It's
say,
just
like,
crazy.
if I had to summarize the whole day, and if somebody asked me, like, okay, well, what do you think was like the biggest reason that y'all did so well? I mean, was it just because like y'all just got lucky and found fish? Was it just because like your guide knew all the spots? No, none of that. It was a combination
No,
of everybody working equally as hard as the other one, or if not harder, to help their team get, you know, to where they wanted to be. I remember looking at you at one point when we were in third, and I remember saying to you, like, even if this is it, I'm so grateful. Like, think about that. Like, what did we just do? You know, I was already like, I was already so thankful because it wasn't about a number at that point. It was more along the lines of like, look at what we've done all day. Because we didn't just land in a bunch of fish. We didn't know secret spots. We went with Tim, another guide, or another, let's say, man at this point. He's a registered guide, yes, but he's not a guide in Rockport. Um, and so like we did really hard shit and we won because we just didn't give up, and we constantly looked for fish, and we worked
exactly.
as a team. We helped each other overcome things, and we literally fished our asses off until the very last second.
Yeah, the very last second. We never gave
And
up
so that's
all
what
day long.
I used to say, like whenever I was like all
All
part
day
of
long.
like the whole corporate America stuff and I had to like hire people for my sales team, I would take somebody any day of the week, all day, every day, that had will versus skill all day, because I'd much rather see somebody that's hungry than somebody that is expecting. If that makes sense. So,
Yeah,
but then we go,
yeah.
I will say,
There's a lot of
one of the like huge highlights for me is, okay, we're going to go into the prizes and stuff because I think it's super important to recognize. You've seen our pictures if you follow us on social media. I mean, I'm sorry, but not sorry that we're spamming all of these pictures, because let's just face it, we may never do it again. I hope that we do, but it was next to giving childbirth, like having childbirth is like, it was that big for me. So one of the highlights for me was like we were on our way to the tent, And I kept refreshing the Fishing Chaos app. And it was once it was all finalized, we still knew that there was a chance that something would come in, there'd be a protest, polygraph, whatever. But once it was final, and Brian beat us to the tent, if you remember, and he started sending us pictures from, they had these big screens up, like the big TVs where it said longest string, and it was constantly like titty deep, titty deep, titty deep. And I think that that's when it like hit me. Like we're in the back of Tim's truck and it's like, holy shit, y'all. I think we just won. I was so excited. That was so fun. Yeah. So that was, and then being on stage, and like, of course, having Jen up there with us and like that picture that we have of her where she's just like huge open mouth smile. Like she is just as happy for us as we were for each other. But then, like Brian with his like videoing and, we've got all that footage and it's like, everything
Yeah.
just came together. Like it was the perfect day, a very perfect day.
Yeah, well, you saw me get like all choked up in the truck too on our way there because Blaine was calling me too, and I forgot what it was that he said. I guess, oh, well, he was with Weston that day at his baseball tournament, which we play with. Chelsea's son Wyatt is on our team, and Chelsea's fished with us before. And she told Blaine said, Chelsea said she knew that you were gonna win. That's all you talk about, and that how bad you wanted to win, and she just knew that she just had a feeling. And I don't know what it was about him saying that just got me all choked up. I was like, ah, and it just got me because yeah, like you said, like people don't other people that don't do this, they don't understand like the feeling. It's just like this itch. It's just like I can't get enough. And then we win something like this and it's like, okay, like this is a big deal. Like we are good enough.
I feel like Sally Field
We
at the
can do
Oscars.
it.
You like me. You really, really like me. Yeah. No, it was so awesome. And I loved seeing all like the tournament, like, they run a really good ship and they really recognize, all the teams, even the little, the young girls, the little babettes, I thought that that was really cute. If you haven't
Yeah.
looked at the pictures yet, go to our social media and check out some of the pictures. We've posted a lot of them, obviously. We'll probably still post more because you know what? We don't give a shit. We're going to. Because we still got more, by the way. But yeah, it was like I was not expecting, like I knew that they have worked their tails off getting prizes and things for like the winners. Like Jen works her tail, the whole group does. But I had no idea. And so I started looking at the table. Remember, we were sitting there and we were actually waiting on Elizabeth to get back from that polygraph. She was gone for like a freaking hour. And we were sitting there looking at these prizes and it started hitting me. I was like, okay, y'all, that's like all for us. I had no idea what we were going to win. I was just excited that we won. So
I
then
really
we
didn't
start seeing
either.
the other first place,
Yeah.
they start calling the first place teams out and it hits us. We're like, okay, we get all that. Oh. And then it just went uphill from there where it's like, oh my God, it's like the best day ever.
Yeah. So we got that big painting that's behind you. That was our like trophy because it says Babes on the Bay, first place, guided artificial. It has our whole category on
Yeah.
the
And it has
bottom
the
there, like
date on
right
it.
behind your
So it's
head,
commemorative of it.
which is
Mhm.
really cool. With the date on it. Yeah, that's
But
pretty awesome.
we
And
have to
then we
say,
each
because
got
this is actually
a
the
brand new,
painting, want to recognize her because Anastasia, and I'm sorry if I totally chopped this, but Anastasia Music. She's very active in the Babes on the Bay and CCA in general because I have two paintings from her. One of them Jen gifted me when I bought the house in Rockport, but then the other one I won at the I think the Corpus Christi CCA. Can't remember what that chapter is called, but she donates a lot of these paintings for them to help raise money for their organization. But she donates this one as the trophy, and she did the others too. So they were just a little smaller, a little different, but her work is amazing. And so I was so proud to take this home, like, because not only is it from her, but it has like the date and all of the stuff on it that kind of, it's a good memory.
Yeah, so good. I hung mine up already too. It's so beautiful. So there was that, which was like our main like pride and joy. Um, and then we got a brand new Waterloo Salinity rod for a spinning setup, which I'm so excited because I do not own a
Mhm.
spinning reel. So now I got to go buy one
And
to
it's
put on
got the
there.
Babes on the
I don't own
Bay
one.
personalization on it, because
We
they do customization for the rods. And so it's got the
yes,
small little Babes on the Bay logo on it, which I really like
mhm,
that. Because I had actually just bought a
yeah,
Salinity cast rod at Tackletown like Thursday, because I was actually going to pull the trigger on that HP Light, and I was like, oh, baby steps, Lindsay, baby steps. So I bought the Salinity as a compromise, and I took it with me the day of the tournament. So whenever I got the matching spin rod, I was like, oh, score! I was very happy. Yeah,
yeah. I love the color too. It's like this like minty sort of greenish color, like a seafoam green looking kind of color. So that was really cool. We got that. We each got a brand new pair of Smith sunglasses, which I have been wearing mine like crazy. Um, and then we all got a
the Grundon's jackets, the Grundon
what
jacket, that was
else?
nice.
Jacket, Grundon's
Yeah,
jacket, and a hat. And then we got cash for side pot most spots. We ended up getting the most spots with the redfish that had 4 spots.
longest stringer.
Then we got
Hmm.
longest stringer. So yeah, between all the money and prizes, I mean, what would you say the total was that we kind of like brought home?
Priceless.
Priceless.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even be able to put
It
a
was
dollar
good.
on it. I mean, it was very generous. And then the look, I wish
It
I'd
was
had a
great.
video when they announced what the winning captains were being awarded, because again, like, we follow Babes on the Bay. Obviously, like, we promote them too, and we're big supporters of it. And but I totally missed that post. And I think you said, you were like, oh, I think I remember seeing that they were all getting brand new props. And
No.
like, the look on Tim's
Yeah.
face, he kind of stopped, like, what he was eating. I think he was eating at the time. And he's like, did they just say prop? And he goes, holy shit.
Yeah. He got like a gift voucher for a brand new prop, and I think that just made his entire day. I think he was, and I was even so like, because, we've talked about this so many times. Like, I don't run a boat, you don't run a boat. Like, we always rely on Blaine or like a captain or a friend, someone to like take us. It's also a lot less stressful, I would feel like, just on us, because I personally wouldn't want to run a boat and fish at the same time. Like, that's to have that all like on you to pick a spot and fish. Ooh, that takes a lot. And so I'm just like mentally like not prepared for that yet. And so like when we not use, but when we have someone who takes us like Tim, I'm always just like, oh my gosh, I wish they would do that more
Mhm.
often in tournaments. Like give something to the guide because that was so like well deserved. And I was so glad that they did
Well, and he
something for
didn't even
him
yell at us very
too. He
much, if
got
you think
that.
about it. Like, he was actually kind of tame. But I told Megan, I said, I think it's because you were here. Like, because he kind of did that the first year with, like, me at Lingerie on the Bay. Like, he was super calm. And it was like the next year, it was like he really came out. So I was like,
Yeah.
if you do this with us again next year,
Yeah.
it'll be like full throttle, Tim. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna warn you there. But no, I was glad that he got something too, because, and like, Tim doesn't, like, even though we do somehow manage to find a way to like choke money down him, he he doesn't ever ask for anything, him or Elizabeth, and they just do it to do it. And he works his ass off all day, and he's got to deal with all four of us, and that's a chore. But he gets in it just as much as we do, like he's in it to win it too. And so he was in it to win it and wasn't winning anything. So that's what like, you just can't replace those kind of people ever. And
Yeah.
he
No.
I just, like I said, I wish I could have had a video of that moment, because he was not expecting anything, and it was great. I'm so glad he got that. Yeah.
So freaking awesome.
So I guess
Yeah.
all that's left to talk about is a quick recap. So this is already kind of like, we've kind of gone a little further on this time than we wanted to, but we didn't want to like skip over anything on this podcast because, well, number one, you didn't get to see us 2 weeks ago, so now you get double. But there was a lot to talk about. So I'll let Sarah kick it off, but just do a quick recap of what rods you took, what reels were attached to those rods. We've already kind of talked about the bait, if you just kind of want to like jazz over that. And just like your setup, from your head to your boots. What does it look like to get ready with Sarah to go out on tournament day?
So, I've actually, I know that we've talked a lot about fishing leggings, and I'm a brand new fan of the Real Sportswear fishing leggings. They actually fit me really good. I don't know if it's just my body type, but they're a little bit more like high-waisted and stuff than the pelagic or pelagic. I can never decide which way you say it. So I've been
Ooh,
a real
what'd you
fan of
get there?
those. Real fan of the Real Sportswear. Yeah. So I wore those with my Barks Bay boots all day, and the rods I took with me, I actually just had a brand new one built by David's Tackle Box, and it was a custom. Um, oh my gosh! Now that you asked me this, I'm drawing a blank. Carbon fiber, custom carbon fiber rod, and it was a little bit longer than what I'm used to. I think I got a 6'4" is what I had it with recoil guides. And that was actually my first time ever putting it to use and actually catching fish on it. I tried to use it earlier on that week on an unsuccessful day that I just kind of went to go mess around. But that was my first time catching fish on that rod. And I caught every single redfish that day on that rod with my Lil John molting, and I use all Lou's custom light reels. That's what I have on all of my setups. I actually borrowed Blaine's because I only own one. So I took his off of his rod and put it on my spare H&H rod, which is also very similar to my David's Tackle Box rod. Um, I brought everything that was fully equipped for redfish. So all of these rods have a little bit more of a backbone and are a little bit more like top heavy. And so it made it a lot easier for me to reel those guys in a little bit faster instead of having to fight them for hours on end because we know those redfish like to fight. But yeah, that's what it looks like getting ready with me and what I take with me. I used my Gorda sling, which has a rod holder on the back and it has a little clip that holds the rod in. So I brought I already had my setup like ready to go with a top water and with my just jig head and a lure on my other line. So I swapped them out kind of throughout the day. Um, yeah, and it worked out perfectly. I thought it was great. I had no difficulties all day long except for I couldn't get my reel settings right on my lues. Kept getting backlashes when the wind kept changing. But other than that, solid day, and that's my setup. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions about my rods. I've used H&H for a while now, and they're like my go-to. So this is my first David's Tackle Box rod, and I was really happy with it. Um, I just wanted to back up something that's a little bit more heavy and sturdy for those bigger fish like that. So, yeah, that did the trick.
So
What about
very
you?
similar setup. Um, and I kind of like interchanged. I have a little ADD whenever it comes to what I want to get in the water with at every stop. So depending on what I've taken off between stop to stop. But I did wear a new hat. I will say maybe it's my new lucky hat. I love it.
Yeah.
We are working on more of those, by the way. So Sarah actually had the other version of it that you've probably seen in our pictures. But I wore leggings again because I know you ladies like y'all. We probably get a lot of questions about leggings, and we've answered that before. But I actually stepped out of the box and like wore my Huck brand leggings, and just honestly, just because they're comfortable and they dry really fast. I don't really actually wear those a whole lot to fish in. I like them, but they're like not my go-to. I don't really know why I put them on that morning. I think I was feeling flustered and just like screw it. Um, but I'm glad I did. So of course I wore my the Sims weight socks that I wear in my Bart's Bay's boots so that I don't get like the friction and the rubbing on my toes. Admittedly had to go buy another pair at Tackle Town because if you've listened to any of our podcasts before, you know that one thing I am famous for is losing my socks. So $30 later, we have a new pair of socks somewhere. Don't know where they're at now, but so, and of course, I wore my bracelets that everybody always laughs at me about, but I think that they're lucky and I love them. So, the actual like stuff that really matters, I did wear my Gorda sling, and there were times where actually I didn't even get in the water with much of anything but a rod. So, because there would be times where like you said, y'all would get out and y'all would be on fish, and I'd still be back at the boat, like trying to get these fish pics taken, and then I'd kind of come in after the fact and I still wanted a piece of the action, but I was like, ah, shit, I'm going. So, but I did wear the sling quite a bit most of the day. I still wear my hook set belt. It's mainly just because I'm old and my back hurts. Um, so after a hard day of waiting, I'm old. So
I'm
I
old.
wear it because I don't know if it's more of a comfort or it's just a mind thing, but I do actually feel more supported. I will say during the winter months, like when we fish with waders, I wear a different pair of boots, and I wear the Sims. I can't remember which ones they are. Start with a T. Freestone? No, those are my waders. I'll post them later, but those definitely have better support for lower back than the Bart's Bay boots. But I won't ever not wear my Bart's Bay boots whenever I'm like wet wading. So what else? That pretty much sums up the clothing and the attachments. I carried the fish bag. I don't think that many of y'all had fish bags. Was I the only one with a fish bag all day? I think I was.
Yeah, so my only fish bag is like rusted
Yeah.
shut to um my old belt, so I just like forgot it. I ended up using a stringer, which I don't use stringers ever anymore. So that was a fun time putting that damn thing through the
Yeah,
fish
I
slip.
I had my fish bag. I like that. It's that forever
So,
last. I will say that the ruler on it is not accurate, and I've learned that over the years, but it's a great little bag. That's it pretty much stays attached to like my actual weight belt. So I don't know. I can't remember the last time I took it off. So I like that sling though. Okay, I'll tell you something really funny. I'm gonna tell it myself. So Friday, God help me, sometimes the blonde comes out. So I have my sling on, and I look like a freaking spider out there because I'm like, I got a rod in my hand, but then I'll put the other one in my on my sling, right? But it kept falling down, and I'd be like walking, and it'd be like out here. So finally, I asked Tim. I was like, Tim, how do you keep your rod up? Like it's like falling out, dude. And he was like, see this little clip? So there's that confession. So once I got that figured out, Saturday was a breeze. I didn't have any more like what not a spider, like Edward Scissorhands is what it looked
yeah,
like.
that
Like a bungee,
Gorda
yeah.
sling has a little loop where you attach it, like a little bungee loop. and it holds the rod like a little ways up from the holder. It holds the rod itself like in like onto the
Yeah, I
sling so
learned
that it
that.
doesn't move or come fall out.
I only had that thing a handful of
So
months.
now that you know
Well,
that.
so rods, reels, that kind of stuff. I I did get one of the new or it's not new, but the same reel you have, the Lose Custom Light. So I had that on top of that new Salinity. I think it was a 6.6 rod. I really like that rod, by the way. I mean, you can feel everything with it. I did not actually land a fish with that rod, just because I didn't use my bait caster a whole lot, because on tournament day I was using a lot with that hunchback, and it was the first thing I grabbed. Honestly, that's really, I mean, when it started working, it became the confidence bait of the day. So there's that. But when I did use the bait caster, I think it's funny because I hadn't thrown it before. I had never used it before. And so I knew that I didn't want to just rely on it, obviously. So I remember Tim messing with it the night before or whatever. And I told him, I was like, make sure it's set on training wheels, because we don't need no like fun bird's nest Lindsay day. And he just kind of laughed. Well, about halfway through the day, I was like, I took the training wheels off. Like, I can't do that anymore. I got to be able to cast. So loved it. Look forward to using it more when we're not in like super tense situations and I can actually just fish. But the spin setup that I have, I love the pin spin reels. So I believe that one that I had was the Battle. I have the Clash and the Clash 2. But that one's the latest version of the Battle. I like that one a lot. Had it for a year or so, I think. But then I have a Waterloo rod on that one as well, and I want to say it's a 6.9. It's not six. It's a 6.9, and it's just the Phantom. And I will say I've had that rod bent. I caught every fish on it that day. I've had that rod bent so far over sometimes that it's just like the backbone is just like, I like actually watching it, if that makes any sense. Like when I lost that one, I will say, like, I was sitting there watching it, trying to not rush it, and letting him kind of fight it out and kind of enjoying it. And the rod was just like, I mean, it wasn't going nowhere. So
In half.
I do like their rods. And if Brian listens to this podcast, I'd be totally fine if he wanted to possibly buy me the HP Light or the Carbon Mag for Christmas. I'm just going to throw that out there. So, and then of course I threw mainly the Hunchback. But again, the spoon was effective for me. And then of course my Little Johns. I mean, I feel like I could have a store at this point because of the selection that I've accumulated. The jig heads that were used on mine were the K Wigglers, like 1/8. So I think that was pretty much most of the day, the 1/8, with the screw lock. And yeah,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I used a 1/8 as well all day. 1/8
so
Texas Custom is what I used all day. Jig head, I forgot about that.
yeah, so there's those. And then yeah, I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh, and then Smith sunglasses. So Sarah, devil. So we were hanging out at the captain's meeting, and like they do a really fun event the night before. It's not just the captain's meeting, like you get to meet a bunch of people, take your cute team pics, all this stuff. And we stop at the Smith sunglass booth, which Sarah and I both bought a pair a couple months ago. We kind of got on this like, hey, let's try these out. And
Yeah.
I'm a self-confessed sunglass whore. Like I have them running out of my ears. It's like some women love shoes. I do too, but sunglasses are my jam. So she's like, Lindsay, you've got to see these. So I come over there and she's like, look how light they are. She's like, they're so light. And so she's like, you got to try them on. So I tried them on. And I was like, oh. So the test for me is always, where does the sunglass, where's the top of it hit? Because I have big ears, y'all. I'm just going to leave that there. I mean, look at them.
Oh,
Like
hello.
I could fly with these things. So that's why a lot of times you see this right here. So when you're fishing, women, like you have your hair tied or braided or whatever, right? So you got your sunglasses on. Well, if they come down too far, then they rub your ear. If they come up too high, then you can't pull your cap
Same
down,
thing for
right?
your hat.
So then you look like, who fishes like that? Nobody fishes like that. Okay. You didn't know this was going to turn into a tutorial. The reason why I like these Smith sunglasses, both pair that well, I now have 3 pair. Both pair that I picked up recently that I actually paid for, both fit that whole dynamic. Not to mention, I mean, I could see more fish than I really needed to see. Like the lenses on them are fantastic. They make you look really cute. I'm just gonna put that out there. And they were like super helpful. What was his name? Do you remember his name? The dude we met?
I don't remember his name.
Okay. So regardless, he was so nice. I was like, okay, well, I like these, but do you have them in a different lens? Because I think those were like the black lens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, I do. I was
What
like, did
color lens did you end up getting? I forgot.
they're like that opal, like the iridescent kind of
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
a green, like um, change color kind of. But you know what? Those are gonna be my fishing glasses from now on because guess what happened that day? So I called them my lucky. I'm very superstitious, I guess. Bracelets, sunglasses, favorite hat. It's happening. So yeah, if you have not checked out Smith sunglasses, and I have the Costas, I have the Ray-Bans, I've tried Maui Jims, I've tried the cheap ones. So just depending on what I'm doing, where I'm fishing, what I'm fishing for, if I'm just running around town, those Smith sunglasses really kind of like are like universal, in my opinion. I really like them.
Yeah. They were the lowdowns.
That was it. Yeah. Yeah.
Lowdown.
And I will post those too because we are going to do on our social media. We will link all this stuff so you know what we're talking about because you can see we're wearing them in some of the pictures, but it's a lot easier to like see the product whenever we post it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I don't want to forget, and I will if I don't say it now, because since I'm still on my like kick on my gear stuff, I talked about Waterloo, and the rods that I use are pretty much all Waterloo. I have one other rod that I really like that's not Waterloo. It's that St. Croix GLF. But I want to say thank you publicly, if we haven't already enough, to Waterloo for working with us on the what did we call it? Well, we had a fancy little name for it. What did I come up with? Grip and Grin. Oh, that was Brian's idea. Grip and Grin. So we got the cutest pictures from ladies from the tournament, and we got them the day of the tournament. We got them the day after the tournament, and we even got them after the contest ended. And if you follow us on our social media, we did share as many of them that if we remembered and we could see, and the story hadn't gone away yet. We did post you guys, but we loved it. We loved that we were able to collaborate with them, and they were so generous, and they were just super accommodating that whole contest and our little shenanigans. They were like, heck yeah, let's do it. So just wanted to give them a quick shout out on the podcast because we could not have done that without them, and we really appreciate their support.
Absolutely. Yep. I second that. We might be doing something similar for Lingerie on the Bay in Matagorda at the end of August. So we always have things to look forward to. So I feel like that's a good note to leave it off on what we're prepping for next. Unfortunately, I think we're skipping out on, are you okay with me saying this?
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Hmm. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Put it out there.
Yeah, we're gonna skip out on Legends and Lace this year. It would have been our third year fishing it, and we have various different reasons that I don't feel like we're going to go into now because we've put a lot of time into this episode. But we're just we got personal and personal reasons and just reasons that we firmly believe that we just are not going to fish that tournament this year. And so our next tournament, I think, unless something just comes up out of the blue, is going to be Lingerie on the Bay in Matagorda at the end of August. That's going to be a really fun time. So we're going to have our buddy Uncle Laser join us at Matagorda Outfitters prior to the captain's dinner that evening. So you do not have to be a part of the tournament or anything to come out and join that. Anybody is welcome to come, or they're going to put on a really fun like sip and shop and do special discounts for shoppers. And we're putting a whole bunch of information together for that. So Lindsay and I have just been like so busy lately with so many different things, and we hope here in the next month it'll slow down so we can really pin down some hard details around what all to expect at Matagorda Outfitters for that event. And yeah, we think it's going to be a really fun time. So the Fort Bend Fishermen's Group has already announced the tournament. They haven't put many details out on it just yet, and they are on Facebook and they just started Instagram recently. So we hope to, if we don't get to this year, collaborate a little bit more with them and in years to come, because they are a smaller group that is they're all very like hands-on. So they're not like CCA. So like CCA, of course, had so many people on board helping them and so many sponsors, whereas we got all these like super fun prizes. But Lingerie on the Bay is not a CCA sponsored tournament, and so they're a group of guys and they kind of are all hands on deck. They prepare all the food and everything themselves, and the tournament rules and the tournament day. And so they're not quite sure if they're, super ready for all of this fun that we have to bring as far as like really, really promoting it. But we're still like promoting it because it's so fun. We want everybody to sign up and fish it.
And it
So
is cash payouts. They do
yeah,
cash payouts. So on top of like just the good old boy, let me feed you and take you, feed you dinner the night before. Like I actually kind of love that there's still that, good old boy tournament style or whatever, where they, kind of accommodate you like that. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. And all I'm saying is we don't have all the details, but there's one thing that there will not be a shortage of, and that is a lot of fucking fun and a lot of alcohol. So let's just put that out there.
There we go. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we'll just end that with, or end our podcast with that note, just things to look forward to. We have another guest lined up for our next podcast. We took a little 2 week hiatus because our release Monday fell on the day right after Babes on the Bay. And we were so excited with our win and everything that we were just like, I don't we just came home just like all excited and back to work and back to planning for more stuff. And so we took a little 2 week off. But we're back in action and ready to put out some more episodes for you guys. So, yeah, thank you to everybody who participated in that Waterloo um, little contest that Lindsay mentioned. That was really fun. And yeah, thanks again to Waterloo. And thank you to Captain Tim for stepping in last minute and taking us on this tournament with Babes on the Bay. It was so fun to have him again. And thank you to Babes on the Bay and the CCA and Jen Thomason and all the people that Taylor, I don't know how you say his last name,
Yeah, Ricky, I don't know. We're
Ricky,
gonna figure that out. He's such a nice
um,
dude.
yeah, just everybody, I will say, and I'll close with this, I think. I will say that after the tournament, I did hear and see a lot of different comments, just like negativity about like cheating and whatnot in this tournament, shared a lot on like social media. And I'm just going to say that there are so many helpful volunteers at this tournament, and they spend so much time reviewing every single photo that comes in through this blasted app that I just like and I don't know if we actually even mentioned this, but every single one of our fucking photos got denied. Every single one. So, there was no easy way into like winning this tournament. Um, and I don't know who has the fucking time to go out there and like cheat through this thing. I mean, I don't think that's anyone's like intention. You got to submit the pictures right. You have to abide by the rules. They're all reviewed thoroughly because
Mhm.
we had to get on the phone with someone at some point through the day when all of ours got rejected for location services or whatever reason, and walk through how to get them submitted appropriately so that ours could be, like we're sitting here like, what? We were like freaking out. But,
I was
you
not
know,
nice at that moment.
and Lindsay was not nice to that poor lady on the phone in
I'm
that
so
moment.
sorry to that lady.
Whoever you were, if you listen to this or you know who she was, oh my God,
The
thank you for
crazy
putting
came
up
out.
with us. The crazy came out, but it's okay. We got it figured out. So, but what I'm trying to say though is that for any like naysayers out there that were like, oh, I'm not fishing this tournament because there's so many cheaters and there's so much riffraff and whatever the hell the comments are out there about this tournament, I have to completely disagree. I have to completely disagree. Just because we know a lot of the staff members, like personally, who
Mhm.
look at these photos, who spend time putting this together, and it's a big deal. And there's a lot of ladies, and it's a lot of work. And I commend them for putting up with so many women, And so, um, anyway, huge thank you to them. And I don't know who would want to get out there with the intention to put some mastermind plan together to falsify their photos by any means. If you're actually out there doing that, I mean, you can go, you're retarded. But yeah, no, I think it's a great setup, and they have it set up really. They have it all organized in a way that I think they've got it down because they've been doing it this way for some years, and um, it's awesome. So thank you to them, and we're so thankful to have taken first place in the artificial guided division. And so congrats to everyone else who won in all their divisions, who came in second and third in their divisions. Props to them as well. It was a long day and much, much deserved. So I think we'll end it with that.
I think that's
Yeah.
a good place to stop.
Yeah. And we will see you guys in another couple of Mondays with our next guest. And should be a good time. So we'll be planning again for Legends and Lace at the end of August.
Right.
And not Legends and Lace, I'm sorry, Lingerie on the Bay. We're skipping Legends and Lace.
You'll have to
So we
edit.
won't see you there.
We won't see you there. But I will say, if you are planning on doing it, um, I think the deadline was today to have it postmarked. So
Yeah.
we're filming this on June 2nd. So
Yeah.
yeah, today was the day.
Good luck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, thanks for going titty deep with us.
And don't forget to check us out on our Instagram at titty_deep_outdoors. And we are working on getting more into Facebook. I'm just gonna be honest, like neither one of us really love Facebook personally, so we just kind of neglected it, but we're going that direction. Give us time, but send us a message if you have questions, if you have people that you would like to hear on our podcast. We would love to hear from you. So shoot us a message, and we are very responsive, and we just can't thank you enough for all the support. It's just been so fun.
So fun. So awesome. All right, you guys, we will see you next time. Thanks for joining in and enjoy your week.